I went into this film expecting something similar to Parasite because of popular acclaim's comparisons of Parasite to this film. Yet, Minari is nothing like Parasite. If the two were in a big family of movies, I'd say Minari is Parasite's far distant relative. Minari doesn't present its messaging in hidden metaphors. It's a far more straightforward story in comparison to Parasite, but its delivery comes off gentle, raw, and down to earth. While I adore both, I'd have to say I adore Minari with far more fondness and emotion. Coming from an immigrant background, my family shares similar sentiments to the Yi family: troubles with earning money, the pressure of raising children, and a lack of belonging. My parents didn't move with dreams of a farm, but my dad hoped his drive to learn would be enough. He came with a scholarship at a university and worked up from there. My mom, like the film's Monica, didn't really come with a concrete plan. She trusted my father and just knew inside that she wanted to create a family here. Growing up, my small brain couldn't process the struggles of the immigrant experience yet. So many of my feelings for my parents were similar to the Yi family's son, David, with his initial distaste towards his halmoni. He hated her for her Korean scent and her lack of baking skills. She wasn't the American grandma he thought she'd be. These feelings were alike to mine. I remember trying to run away from my parents in public, the shame I felt when they couldn't navigate the menus at nice restaurants or had to ask what I thought were silly questions to cashiers at big shopping malls. Inside the walls of my family's apartment, I felt comfortable and safe with my Chinese identity, but as soon as I stepped out, I couldn't help but feel so lame. I so badly desired to be different and truly American. Minari just hit the nail on the head in showing the tricky navigation of the American identity. Immigrants learn about the American dream as a direct path toward success, but nobody talks about the fine print that warns about its potential problems. Jacob and Monica share the same vision of creating an American family in America, but the two fail to communicate how they plan on doing so before Jacob commits to risky arrangements. The script weaves together the family struggles with the dreams of success. The two parallel, portraying how many of the problems in the family directly result from the fact that they are in America. The film reminds me that Asian American is very much a political identity, rather than a label to describe one's own race. In the past century, Asians endured immigration exclusion acts, internment camps, and continued ostracization even up to today. By showing these struggles that are not felt by the non-immigrant experience, Minari depicts our longing for Asian American acceptance. With such beautiful messaging and stellar performances by the entire cast, Chung's Minari was my favorite watch as of late. In my opinion, heavy metal drummers are exceedingly cool compared to me. After their first few scenes of Sound of Metal, I could confirm that Ruben and Lou were certainly on a higher coolness level compared to where I sat. One of my worst traits is how much I compare myself to others. But it might be one of those universally dumb teenager things, where we overthink about everything and feel like the world revolves around us, but I digress. Through these comparisons, I learn about the ambitions of others, and slowly these ambitions inspire me to create my own goals. I feel like people of now are constantly moving, pushing themselves to advance their careers, relationships, and various aspects of life. In pursuing all of this, what would happen if you suddenly became deaf? Sound of Metal answers that question. Upon living a busy, fast-moving life on a music tour with his girlfriend Lou, Ruben suddenly can't hear. He learns that his hearing will not return until an expensive operation, completely altering his life in the moment. There's a period in the film where Ruben goes ballistic. He cannot process that things will have to change at that point, or that they even need to change. He wants to continue touring with Lou, but both know that this won't be possible. Understanding this reality, Ruben says goodbye temporarily to Lou and joins a program with the deaf community. Here he meets Joe and learns valuable lessons through group activities, work with schools, and reflection. The best aspect of this movie for me was probably Joe. His dialogue with Ruben made me reflect on how rarely people take time for moments of stillness, valuable time taken to just do nothing. Joe sets Ruben aside when he sees Ruben trying to fix the shutter. With a loss of hearing, Ruben feels inclined to make himself useful, as if his disability has rendered himself without the ability to live life. Understandably so, as Joe points to Ruben's loss of hearing, profession, sobriety, and even girlfriend. Yet these losses don't mean that Ruben has lost the ability to live life. Rather, he can, and will, live a fulfilling life upon a spiritual recovery. Thus, this deaf community serves as a place for Ruben to realize his life will continue. The stillness which Joe discusses will be a kingdom of God when Reuben finally unlocks it. Though Reuben cannot believe Joe's words at first, he does reach this kingdom by the end. We are left to believe that such stillness was needed for Reuben, regardless of his deafness. The story showed me the power of stillness and how we all need it. Many times, change is inevitable, leaving us feeling powerless and terrible about ourselves and our state of being. Rather than be in a state where we are miserable, we can choose to be empowered by the stillness of the world. Riz Ahmed provides a powerful performance as the lead. Honestly, this whole cast does an amazing job. The film is beautiful and powerful, casting light on a community far too underrepresented in Hollywood. Even though this story was about a community that I may not be a part of, it's a message that will force many to reflect upon, I feel. Promising Young Woman was one of the most bananas movies I've seen recently. Watching it felt like I was digesting a surrealist painting. Fennell employs juxtaposition through her choice of coloring, costuming, characterization, music, and even plot. This film just leaves unsettling feelings, pointing to the unsettling reality which women live in. While the other movies I've watched on this list left me with a lot to say, this film gutted out every single part of me, leaving me confused and concerned. Mulligan does a spectacular job playing Cassie. Her interactions with Madison, Dean Walker, Ryan, and all the other characters show how Cassie is a cunning, doesn't take no shits type of girl. In many ways, she's exactly the type of woman I want to be. I want to be the one that goes out of my way to teach lessons to god-awful men, or stand up for the wrongs committed against my best friends. But on the other side of the coin, why does Cassie as a character have to even exist? Cassie's characteristics and behavior embody what happens to women in a sexist and negligent society. During the day, she wears pretty pink clothes and does her hair in cute curls and braids. This daytime appearance is very much what the stereotyped woman wears, and what her expected appearance is. At night, she goes out to catch men who try to have sex with drunk women, all because of something terrible that happened to her best friend years ago. Cassie even dropped out of college and is without a relationship because of this traumatic experience with her best friend, bringing alarm to her parents while also putting a halt on her own career. She, the woman, must bear the consequences of what men do. None of the other characters in the film face any sort of trauma or traits as a consequence of the incident with Cassie's best friend, though many of them took part in it. For example, the men in the movie continue to live successful lives. The women who took the side of the man responsible for assaulting Cassie's best friend also continue to live their lives normally. Madison, an old classmate of Cassie, appears unfazed after college, as Cassie finds her living a successful life. Ryan doesn't seem to recall the incident even though he also went to the same school. Though Ryan and Cassie were both on the same path towards becoming doctors, Cassie is the one who has to drop out, while Ryan goes on to finish medical school. I haven't seen a film depict issues of rape and assault like Fennell has. This movie has paved the way for important conversations for obvious reasons, and it's a painful movie that I look forward to rewatching sometime soon. It's been a few years since I took my AP US History class, which was the first time I heard about the trial of the Chicago 7. Even then, I was probably too busy cramming the content for that unit to really grasp what even happened. Admittedly, legal dramas of this film's genre are not my favorite to watch, but Sorkin is able to make the film an incredibly engaging journey. I'm a big fan of many Aaron Sorkin films, and I always find that he does a good job of writing characters. Like his previous work, the characters of the film just feel real, and not just because they're based off of real people. I genuinely became passionate about the cause being fought for. I understood the internal conflict Tom felt. Throughout the entire movie, the judge caused me impassioned rage. Thanks to these characters, the entire journey was thoroughly engaging, frustrating, and empowering. The actors in this movie just do an amazing job. Eddie Redmayne has an American accent that's honestly more convincing than some American actors do, and a completely convincing portrayal of Tom. And Sacha Baron Cohen is just absolutely wonderful as Avi. Obviously, this film is not a deeply profounding one with existential questions about life, but I don't think it's supposed to be. It's just a dramatized depiction of what occurred during this trial and the legal injustices faced by those who want a voice. There are a few questions I asked afterwards about America's police and how the role of police in this movement relates to the current conversation about ACAB. The film probed me to also question our justice system upon the treatment of Bobby Seale and any black defendant in America today. Obviously, this film comes at a great time when there are already conversations currently happening about the injustices in America's system. However, there's always room for films like this to do more to critique problematic political systems. I praise Sorkin's film for advocating for the side of free speech and justice, but I only wished he went a little further to emphasize how deeply flawed these systems are, not just the people sitting in power. By pushing for things like freedom to protest and civil rights, we have to ask, why do we need to fight so terribly long for these basic things? Why do these systems so easily dismantle citizens' demands for an end of a bloody war? Why is it so difficult to push for these changes? I'm still waiting for a Sorkin film to finally answer these questions. This film has certainly left an impact on me, and I encourage anyone to watch it if you have a Netflix account right now. Funny enough, I actually learned about this Peter Folds short film from a TikTok that claimed it to be a masterpiece. From the brief seconds I watched of this TikTok, I became mesmerized by the visuals of the film, and I knew I had to watch it. The piece is available on YouTube to watch for anyone interested. I haven't seen anything quite like Hunger before. Plenty of films have provided commentary on how humans restlessly consume in a society dominated by capitalism. There's not a second of dialogue in this film, but Folds is able to say a lot still. We follow a gluttonous man's life after work as he constantly consumes everything around him. The film uses a technique called interpolation, which connects settings together as the protagonist morphs into his surroundings. He morphs between himself and the restaurants and supermarkets he goes to eat copious amounts of food at. This technique makes the man indiscernible to these businesses he goes to, reminding me of how humanity becomes intertwined with greedy consumption. Eventually, the man morphs into a seven-mouthed, six-armed monster that eats and eats, followed by being morphed into a claw machine that finishes his meal. Once again, Folds reminds us of how we, humans, can become the corporate industrial mechanisms we use to consume. The line art for the backgrounds and the characters are simple, but very messy and terrifying to look at, to be honest. There was something really uneasy about the entire experience, but at the same time, I couldn't look away. The choice of music was also unsettling, inducing increasing amounts of anxiety as I watched and watched. This horror-filled experience is one everyone should engage in at least once. Another short film with just 12 minutes, If Anything Happens, I Love You, captures the beautiful moments shared by two parents with their daughter. Yet these beautiful moments are quickly destroyed by a gun shooting that results in the parents losing their child. The design for the characters is simple, but this goes to show how this really could just be any American family. I like the film's choice of using black and white, with color emphasized only in certain parts. For example, the choice to use bright red and blue colors for the school's American flag was very powerful to me. In school, we're brought up with the ideas that affirm America's values. We have to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. Our history lessons revolve around solely America. The scene of the school and the flag sit there stilly while the shooting occurs, and it's haunting to see where we're at in our country. The directors do a great job of showing how painful it is to lose your child to a shooting. I don't have a kid, but I can't imagine how terrifying parents must feel sending off their kids every day, knowing that shootings occur so frequently. I'm honestly really glad that this film is getting extra buzz after its win at the Oscars. This message reflecting the gun shootings in America can be difficult to watch, but it's a necessary reminder of how badly we need change.